Good morning, girls. I hope you had a good Thursday and your Friday is even better. Today is Small Business Basics. So, by the time you're done, you'll be able to talk about some of the characteristics of the small businesses, recognize advantages, and then some of the problems that they face. And we've already talked about these throughout the chapter and throughout this semester. So, by definition, a small business is any sort of business with less than 500 employees. That is provided by the government and the Small Business Administration. And the Small Business Administration is that government agency, and they help those business owners develop business plans, get financing, and then any other support they might need in order to be successful. So, for these small business owners, remember it's less than 500 employees. Usually, this small business manager is also the owner on here. And these are in very few locations. It might be in a region, maybe a couple counties, maybe just a state also. They usually are in a small market and they're not dominant whatsoever in their field. More than 60% of all the private sector employees are employed by small businesses. And we have talked about that in this class a majority of time, or quite a few times. The majority of the small businesses or businesses in the United States are small businesses. Your textbook had said it's 99% of all businesses are small businesses. The majority of that 99% have no employees and they're ran out of the business or the owner's home. With these different businesses, there's a lot of diversity in there. A lot of them are in the service business, so hair salons, construction, roofing, gardening, things like that. And a lot of times it's some sort of professional and technical service that they provide. Most generally, when people think about a small business, they're thinking about construction companies, and that's one of the biggest areas that small businesses are in. With this, about a quarter of those small businesses are owned by women, and that is expected to jump, especially since there's different grants available for ladies out there. About 17%, and that number is also growing, are owned by minority people in the United States. Most of them are 35 years or older. Only about 14% is under that 35 age mark. And most of them have a high school diploma. About 64% has had some college. They may have completed, they may not have. And then about half of them is all based from home. If you look at this chart, you can see, and this is from the Census Bureau, you can kind of see where the small businesses rank. And retail trade, right down here at the bottom, is your biggest, and then it goes clear up to educational services. Those would be your private tutors. So, other than the formal definition of what a small business is, what other things can you think of? Well, one owner. He's always almost always the manager. In very few locations, it has a small market, and they're not dominant in their field whatsoever. Even though they're not dominant, they're in a small area, there are those advantages for small businesses. Usually, these people will be able to provide the products and services that are very specialized, something that large businesses usually don't take on because they can't make a profit from it. And a lot of times it's a lot easier for a small business to meet those precise needs. And they usually have fewer customers. The nice thing, though, is they are in frequent contact with their customer. They're usually closer, and they have a more one-to-one rapport with them. If you think about it, if you compare our school with maybe a school in Lincoln, you get more one-to-one attention because we're more like a small business. We can meet your needs a lot easier because there's fewer of you than a school in Lincoln. You can also think about that with cell phone companies. Verizon, our closest one, is going to be Kearney, Grand Island, North Platte, whereas Vero, you can go to Ord, and they actually do travel to like North Loop, Spalding, and a couple other places to help out with that. These small businesses, they take a special interest in the customer, and they spend time with them. They determine what they need, what they don't need, and any alternatives to help those customers meet the needs that they have. So with this, how can they compete successfully with larger businesses? Well, we know it's because they can have more personalized products and services, and then also they're there where the larger companies cannot fulfill any needs. If it's a small order or project, or it's very unique. Now on here, and we've talked about this before, there's reasons why small businesses fail. We know not all of them survive. We talked about that with the very first section of this chapter. Failure rate is very high for them when you compare it to large businesses. Most of the reason is because they cannot pay their tax or their expenses. Part of those reasons, other than just not paying expenses, they don't keep good enough records. They don't know where their money is going, what they're spending, where, and then how they're getting the money in there. Another reason is not having enough startup money, and we've talked about that a couple times before. They might not have any sort of experience, or they don't have the experience that they need for that specific area that they're in. They don't control their expenses, and we've already talked on that. They may have selected a poor location, or they've offered credit to their customers so the customers can go ahead and charge, and they don't manage that well enough, so they lose money. Now, because there are so many failures, the government has set up Small Business Administration to help out with that, but there's other places that you can go for assistance. A lot of times, university and college faculty members are willing to help out. You just have to ask a couple questions, and they'll answer them the best you can. Some of them may require a payment, though, because their expertise they feel is not free. There's also some local groups of business people, like a Chamber of Commerce, you can go in, and they'll help provide demographic information to you, so you can help decide how you're going to market, where you're going to locate, things like that. And finally, and we've already talked on this a little bit with the definitions, was the Small Business Administration from the government. Remember, they're going to help with business plans, getting the financing and other support that is needed. The really nice thing with the Small Business Administration, they also offer publications, counseling, and other support. And they have put together and sponsored what is called SCORE, the Service Corps of Retired Executives. And that's just a group of retired local business people, and they volunteer their services to help mentor new business owners. They want to see as many people successful as possible, and it's also their way of giving back because of others who had helped them. So remember, common reasons for failure: not keeping adequate records, not enough startup funds, lack of experience with management and type of business, not controlling expenses, bad location, and just won't manage the credit. So on Monday, we will go through section 3, which is starting a small business, and then we'll be working on getting into our own business plans here pretty soon. For today, your assignment is you'll have to go to your textbook online to page 134. There are 3 key concept questions, and they are all multiple choice. And then number 4, it is labeled as a technology question. With this, I think you might actually have a little bit of fun with it. Maybe not. But you get to go on to eBay. And go ahead, click around, explore it. Now, I can't guarantee it is open here at school. If not, just explain to Miss Coinson that you are doing it for a school project for this class and ask her to unblock it for the time being. And you're just going to identify 3 ways a small business can use the website to support its operations. Something other than just selling products. So you need to really put some thought into it. Anyway, that is all for today, girls. I hope you have a great afternoon and a wonderful weekend. Kendra, good luck at track this weekend. Please make sure you let me know how you and everybody else does. And ladies, we'll see you on Monday.